tip.
Good afternoon. It is February 17th, 2025. We're listening to a little of column A, a little of column B, hosted by Will Lemos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? We have a world record that was broken recently. Minnesota man considers himself a recreational disc golfer, but broke the world record by completing 18 holes of disc golf in 4 minutes, 58.76 seconds. Is this impressive to you?
What was it? Disc golf?
Fastest round of disc golf. 4 minutes, 58.76 seconds.
So we're flinging frisbees. You have certain frisbees that are just like certain clubs, I assume, right? I'm really not as familiar with this. And you do this as fast and as efficient as possible. And so this is a lot of hole-in-ones, or this is like a birdie? I have no idea. Like a bunch of eagles? Is this... What does this translate to as like as fast as possible? Like you got to run through all this as well, I assume? Like there's cardio. This is a lot of ground to cover. Is that
two of his favorite activities, disc golf and running. So he said that this was just prime for him.
Wow. Disc golf sounds all right. I think the nice part about it sounds about walking for it and just being outside. Running, I don't need to be adding that to casual events. Like what's the other, like, you could watch games, you could be running the whole time. It's like, no, I think I like that I'm just sitting down doing that. Is that kind of how you're feeling about this?
I don't find it impressive. This is why I don't find it impressive. You're like not following the rules. The idea of disc golf is not to do it as fast as possible. This is like saying you played the fastest game of baseball and you just swung at every pitch. Like it doesn't even say what his score was. It's like, what are we doing here?
Is this where Wemby and Chris Paul got their skills challenge strategy? This seems exactly like
quite
that.
Possibly.
Like
quite possibly.
Forget being good at this. Let's just get it done as fast as possible. It's against the clock.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that he's having a good time. It sounds like the next record he's going for is he wants to do the most disc golf holes played in 24 hours. Seems like a little more of a marathon, where this one was closer to a sprint. But just seems like you could use your talents to actually be good at the sport rather than just combining a different sport with it and going, as fast as you could. Just seems odd to me.
Is that really the truth of this, though? That he's just not a good enough runner to be just good at running? That he has to attach some sort of extra activity to this? Say I'm that good?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, like he's not winning any running races. He's not winning marathons. I'm sure he's participating in that sort of stuff, but it doesn't sound like. I don't know. It's just like, what are the competitors of all this? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Who are you competing against in this?
Yeah. And so, do you think he just breaks this record again during the 24 hours?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not that impressed. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Golf. I mean, we might as well put this on during the Duke game. Is that what you want? More golf?
Did you see what the schedule was for tonight? I didn't want to bring it up, but yes, there's a decent chance that is going to happen tonight. So I'm trying to calm myself down now, and when it happens, that I'll be more calm, cool, collected than I've been in the past. But we'll see what happens.
Man, what a win for the CW! Who would have thought that your most reliable ACC games would be on the CW? Who would have thought?
Not me.
Well, it's February 17th. The winter storms are all over the place here. I mean, all sorts of different types of snow. Wet, hard, cold, freezing, windy. Everything's happening all at once. But the All-Star weekend just happened for the NBA, so there's not a lot to do there. NFL, we're all wrapped up post-Super Bowl, so that means it is time for college basketball. We're going to go through the top 16 seeding that just came out from the committee, and we're going to kind of regroup these together here. So I think we could do this. Are we going to be able to get along enough to agree on all these? Like, what are you more worried about, the first couple or the last couple?
I think the last couple. Although you did text me earlier today that you thought that Duke should be in the NIT, so I really don't know what direction this is going to go into. So I think this will be fun.
You're misquoting me. I don't appreciate that on my own podcast here. I said Duke's ACC tournament is basically going to be like competing in the NIT, where you're playing against a bunch of teams that aren't going to be in the tournament. So it's not the same value of winning the ACC tournament as it used to be, at least not this year.
That was not the way I read your message.
That's what I meant. And that's fine. That's all right. I like being misquoted. This is a good way to start it off. I'm not going to combat this at all. I thought I was pretty generous to some of these ACC teams, and specifically one in this Power 16 or whatever you want to call them rankings. I think we're going to unanimously agree on number one. Should we just start with that and keep it
Sure.
easy here? I think Auburn's the most well balanced team in the country between offense, defense, numbers wise, eye test wise. They got a go to guy, size, threes, versatility. I like everything about this, and as well as they're doing all this in a conference that also factors in. That's super competitive in the SEC. I think they're the easy number one. Is there any argument for that or anything you want to add?
I think it would be tough to argue against Auburn at number one. Only 2 losses on the season. One relatively recently, at their own building, but was against Florida. And I have to imagine we're going to get to Florida in the not too distant future here. And compared to some of the other teams we're going to talk about, in the SEC, it's been talked about the whole year how the SEC is awesome, and then you have this team that is, not undefeated. They got one loss in conference play, but they're dominating. They're number one in the country with the toughest schedule in the country.
It's an impressive. I think this is the easy decision I think we're going to have out of everything here. So that guy, I feel good about that. I don't want to really move around with that, and I'm okay with them being one. I think they're the only one that has the true proof, as you said, validating everything about that resume. Now, number two, this just gets hard immediately here because it's like, all right, so we're just going to pick the next best team in the SEC, and it's like, well, which one is that? And then if you do kind of break down all these SEC teams, they all kind of have a different style. They're not quite as balanced as Auburn is. So it's like, would you rather have a hell of an offensive punch from Alabama, or would you rather have a little bit more balance of a team, say like Duke? I like the way Duke plays. I think there's less proof. There's not quite the schedule resume, but there's an eye test in the style they play that goes along with everything I liked with Auburn. They got good size. They can hit threes. They got versatility. They got a true big. They got a go-to guy. I think they're capable of winning games both offensively and defensively. So I had Duke at 2. That's not where the committee had them. They had them at 3, and they had Alabama there. And we just saw Auburn, Alabama. It's really hard for me to say, hey, Alabama, you could have easily beat Auburn in a game that was pretty close at home, and you didn't. And because of that, I'm putting Duke ahead of you. That doesn't have quite the same resume. Am I crazy for thinking this way, or did you also have that?
I also had that. I thought that Auburn was pretty much in control of that game, and it was at Alabama, and I think so. Their rankings came out Saturday morning, so we're doing our rankings Monday. So there has been games since then. So I'd be interested. I can't remember if they do the top 16 every week or if it's every other week, but I would imagine if they were doing it again today, that Alabama would drop down. Just I think there was expect this game was going to be a little more competitive, but I think I echo all the sentiments that you have with Duke being at number 2. Of the ACC is down this year, but not very many not very many losses, not any bad losses. Got a contender for National Player of the Year, as well as we were just talking about Auburn and how awesome they were, and one of the losses is to Duke. So you have to beat some of these teams, and Duke has definitely had some problems in some of the closer games, but this was one that they were able to take care of. It was months ago, but I don't see for any reason why, if this were to be played again, that it wouldn't be a competitive matchup. I don't think that Auburn runs them off the floor or anything like that.
I think Duke's in a really good place here. Where what are they going to do to screw all this up? Versus Auburn's got to survive the rest of this SEC schedule. I think Duke's in a good place, and I don't feel crazy about putting them at 2. I think these SEC teams could easily shuffle, and we're going to talk about all of them right now between 3, 4, 5, where you could have Alabama's offense, you could have Tennessee's defense, you could have Florida's sporadicness. I like a little bit something about all of these teams, but I think there's something you could point to that there's clearly a flaw. Alabama looked like they deserved to be on the floor with Auburn, and I thought that was respectable to keep them at 3 because of that. But I also just think this team has to play fast. They in a close game, it slows down, and they can't play fast, and I feel like their weapon that they're so good at gets taken away from them, and it becomes, I think, a little bit easier to stop. Is that enough to move them out of the top 3 here?
I do not have an SEC school at number 3.
Oh, okay. Who are we moving in here? Houston?
I went with Houston. I know that, compared to the SEC, that their schedule isn't as tough, but I think that they're going to have opportunities, especially at the back half. Just this weekend, beat Arizona on the road, beat Baylor earlier in the week, and I believe they're 17-1 in their last 18 games. So part of it is making sure you're going in and winning all of the games. They have 4 losses, 1 to Auburn, 1 to Alabama. We've already mentioned Auburn. We're flirting with talking about Alabama, San Diego State in overtime, and then Texas Tech, who also in overtime. So I think not only who you lose to, but how you lose, in these kind of coin flip games, I think matters. And I get it. If you want to go, hey, they haven't beat anybody good, which I'm willing to argue with a little bit, but obviously compared to Auburn, but these SEC schools are getting more cracks at it. But yeah, I'm going to have Houston at number 3.
All right. I don't know if I can quite move them there, but I can see the argument. Their KenPom numbers, both offensive and defensively, are great. They're one of the few teams that are on the first page of both of those, and that's very impressive. It's just more of, how do you feel about the Big 12 though? Like, you're all right with Texas Tech, Iowa State, Arizona, Kansas? I mean, do we like any of these other teams? Like, who's the threat here? I mean, I don't even want. I don't make me go off on Kansas again here, but I mean, do you think these other teams in this conference are good?
I think Texas Tech and Iowa State are top 10 teams. I think they're better than Kansas for sure.
Yeah, I had Houston at 6, and I thought that was fair because I just threw a whole bunch of SEC teams in here after. I actually put Tennessee at 3 because I was like, let me just throw some offense or some defense in there. I can't just be offense. So I gave Tennessee the benefit of the doubt of being an actual defensive team, and not only a good defensive team, but a good defensive team in an offensive conference. That's just insane.
I put Tennessee at 6. I think part of it is just watching the Kentucky games, and Kentucky has beat Tennessee twice, and Kentucky has had their problems, but they absolutely, and it's not just this year, it's been like the past few years, they've just had Tennessee's number, and I don't get it. So I think I'm definitely a little bit skewed on that. So when we started to kind of go on this SEC run, I had to put them at the bottom of this bracket of SEC schools below Auburn.
Yeah, and we just talk about all of these teams, Alabama and Tennessee. I think Florida might be the hottest team of them all right now. They're a team of heat checks. I think they're a little risky business. They're not quite as consistent, but there's something impressive about them always being able to come back, or just being capable of coming back, and you need to get defensive stops to do that. So I think
this Florida team, and again, this was in January, so it's a month, six weeks ago, but they beat Tennessee by 30 points. Tennessee. So that's where it's like I had to have Florida above them.
All right, so you got Houston at 3. Who'd you go with at 4?
I went Florida at 4, Alabama at 5, Tennessee at 6.
All right, no love for the defense of Tennessee. You just can't oversee those losses, even though it's the hottest offenses they went against. That, like, the Kentucky numbers of offensively are only off the scale because they lit up Tennessee. Like, those are like their bonus wins right there. If you take those away, I just feel like this Tennessee team, I think it's really good.
And that's where I'm telling you that it's just from seeing those and watching those, start to finish, where I don't obviously catch every single Tennessee game, but the ones that I watched, where it's just baffling, especially the first one against Kentucky. It was close down the stretch. They were at home, and they were down 3 points. I think with, I don't know, it was like 3 and change to go. And it was like they forgot that 2-point shots existed, or they thought that there was only 20 seconds left in the game. I'm normally more, towards the end of the game, announce say, oh, you don't need a 3-pointer here. It's yes, you do. You can pretend like you don't, but you're extending this game, but you're just going to lose. You have to hit a 3. The sooner you start trying to do that, the better. And they just jacked up 3 after 3 after 3. They were even getting offensive rebounds, and then again, passing it out and trying to shoot a 3. And just, it was frustrating, and I have a hard time getting out of my mind. And I realize there's a bias here, but yeah, that's where I had to drop them down. Just as, like, I think they're all kind of in a little bracket here.
All right, so I will give you Houston can be above these teams for all the reasons we can't even decide on which one of these teams is better. Is a reason to just put them behind Houston. So we can have Houston at 3. At 4, we got to pick one of them. I went with Tennessee. I can be Florida if we're doing most up to date. I feel bad for Alabama, who, like I said, it's not like they got completely embarrassed in this game where we just talked about Auburn being awesome. We're not even gonna talk about having them ahead of Florida. We're putting Florida at 4.
What have you done for me lately? And I
All
get
right.
you lost to Auburn, but you were at home, and this was your opportunity to take down number one. And I mean, it was only single digits, but I guess I was never there. There's never seemed to be a concern.
I'm with you. They're a very one-sided offense too. It's fast. It's a lot of reckless shooting, and yeah. All right, so we can put Florida at 4 then. Who did you have at 5?
Alabama. So I had Houston, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee.
All right, we can keep that. We can keep that. So that gets us to where are we at now? 7.
7.
I went with A&M. I just again, they're tied with Florida. They're fourth in the SEC. Like if you feel the same way about all those other teams that are ahead of them, I just at some point you do got to put a Big Ten team in here, and then we could talk about which one that should be. I think the committee at the time felt pretty good about Purdue, and I think even going into the tournament, I feel pretty good about Purdue. But if we're talking about what you did for me recently, I mean, what we got? We got a whole bunch. It's like a love triangle of like 4 teams here between Michigan State, Michigan, and who am I forgetting here?
All the Big 12 teams.
Yeah, all of them. But who'd you go with then at 7?
For 7, I went Texas Tech, and then at 8, I went Iowa State. I went with the Big 12 teams there.
All right, all right. Where did you
I
have
felt
it?
that Texas A&M. I hear you. I think that they could make a run for sure in the SEC tournament, but I think if you're doing the SEC tiers, that they're a tier below your Florida, Alabama, your Tennessee. So I had to like put some space in between.
I had Iowa State at 9, so we're not too far off at that. And I had Purdue at 8, but I really expected the Purdue one where we would be like, all right, which one of the Big Ten teams do you want to put on top here? Wisconsin's kind of hot. Michigan's kind of hot. Michigan State's been in the mix for a lot of this year. And I still kind of like Purdue with Braden Smith probably the most. But what have you done for me recently? Do we got to punish them? Where did you put them? Are they even in?
Wait, which team? You went through a bunch of them right there.
Purdue.
Purdue. I have at 11.
Do you have another Big Ten team ahead of them?
I have Wisconsin at 9. 3 double-digit wins in a row, and I thought they just deserved the nod over Purdue, who just lost.
Yeah, they did just lose to Michigan and Wisconsin. All right.
Yeah, so it's just tough with the back-to-back losses. I get you that's like not the whole resume, but if it's you're kind of getting onto like one or the other, like who kind of gets the nod, that's kind of how my thought process worked.
I had Texas Tech at 13. I do really like what Toppins is doing. Like that's nice. I don't really want to hate on that right now. Yeah, other than my same SEC argument. So you had Texas Tech at 7, and you had Iowa State at 9.
Yeah, or Iowa State at 8. I had Wisconsin at 9.
Wisconsin at 9. Oh boy. Okay, and then who do you have at 10 then?
Texas A&M, and then Purdue.
Okay, yeah, we're more or less we're pretty much lined up here. I basically just had all those same teams in a different order, so that doesn't really offend me at all. I think after this though is these last couple spots here. I think this can go any direction you really want. So I'm happy with all those lists. I don't really care about the order. That's pretty much on par here. So you had at 9. You had who do you have at 10?
Texas A&M.
And then you had Purdue at 11.
Yep.
And at 12.
This is where I agree. I think we're going to start going a little more wild. I have Gonzaga at 12.
Oh, man. No, I didn't even have them on here. I had them on as versus the field here. I just felt like if you're going to show Wisconsin and Purdue some love, I mean, what are we doing with Michigan and Michigan State? And also, Kansas is just out, right? You didn't have those in the top 16. I thought that was crazy that they were just locked in.
I do not have Michigan or Michigan State on my list. I have Kansas at 15.
Wow, why? What have they done that you don't like? I mean, Michigan State, I can honestly.
Here's one of the things that I got to point out where we've been talking about, head-to-head records, this and that, but every once in a while, especially as we're getting down in the list, where we as humans, it's hard to line everything up. You got to looking at the data, and these, the committee comes out and says, hey, we have this ranking that we are going to use. It's not the end all be all, but this is the one we're going to use, and the net ranking has Gonzaga at 10, and so I'm putting them at 12. So I don't have them as high as the net ranking has them.
I had Wisconsin at 12. What about Kentucky, Arizona? Have they managed to crack in your list here?
Kentucky did not make the list. Kentucky has lost 5 of their last 8. I get they're in the SEC, but you got to win games at some point. You can't just keep going with, well, you're in the SEC, it's really tough. So no, they are not they're not a top four seed for me. I had Arizona at 13, where they would have been higher, but back-to-back losses that drops you down a little bit. They were getting real hot there for a bit, which they're not in the Pac-12 anymore, but I guess still on the West Coast time, or they're close to that. It just seems like all their games are just so late at night.
All right, where'd you have the Johnnies? St. John make it?
16.
I put them at 14. I just think a little bit more of a defined identity is something I'm more willing to trust than Michigan or Michigan State is kind of what I had going on after them. So they're a defensive team. They have a good coach. They're going to have ball pressure. If you're not ready for them, you're in trouble. And I just think having that,
I think I would have had him
better.
I would have had him a little bit higher, but get tripped up at Villanova. I love the win on the road at UConn last week, where, you know, 2-time defending champ, you're able to go into their building. It was at their campus. It wasn't at the XL Center. And I think that this team, with Pitino, it's just, he's got a ton of tournament experience. And this team, I think there are other teams up towards the top that are used to being ahead. They like everything kind of being in their favor, orderly. We're in control. I think the Johnnies, I think they're prepared for chaos. And I think that when you get in the tournament and all of a sudden things are not going your way, and all of a sudden you got referees from another conference and this school that you've barely even prepared for, you didn't realize what was going on. You got fans of other schools and everything's going crazy. I think that St. John's is going to be locked in, and they're going to be ready for the chaos.
Well, I saw in the initial release that the committee put out that they put the destinations of where the games will be, or projected to be based on the rankings here.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the Johnnies in Newark. And they were talking about how that they might have to switch that because they try to even out certain things like that. But if that ends up happening, at least it's currently projected to happen, the Johnnies in Newark, that's not far. That's a home game.
I mean, that's not unusual, but that is also just penciling them into the Sweet 16. Still got to win 2 games.
I think they're capable of it. I think I would trust them a little bit more than a lot of the other teams we just talked about.
I think more what you should look at, because when they do that, they're doing where the regionals are going to be. So that means that you win. So then your next 2 games, those would be in Newark. But the first ones, it's not like those are far away. I would think that they'd be playing in Providence.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the Johnnies run continues. I like the team. I'd be excited to have Pitino back in the tournament.
They won't move them. They move teams closer to where they can be. You can't play in your home arena. Like Rupp is hosting one of the sites, so Kentucky can't play there. But last year there were games at MSG, and at the Barclays Center. They're at the Barclays Center, and UConn played there. That's just a trip down 95. So they usually try to make it relatively nearby. It doesn't all the way work out, but that's a little more of the default, especially for the better teams.
All right, we got to go through this whole list here. Why don't you read through the whole list just to clarify everything, and then I'm going to tell you which team's got to go. I'm gonna
just the ending, or right from the start.
Go from the start. Let's just recap everything here.
All right,
because
starting at 1.
I think we're good to about 14. I think we're all right. These last couple, though, I don't know if we're going to agree on this.
All right, from the start: Auburn, Duke, Houston, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Wisconsin, Texas A&M, Purdue, Gonzaga, Arizona, Missouri, Kansas, St. John's.
Missouri. I had them written down. I had them written down with Marquette, Maryland. I put Michigan State there. I ended up putting Michigan State at 16. That was a little bit more of a homer pick, but it was also more of, I think I would rather play Kansas than Michigan State. Is that crazy to say? Like, I'm not very scared of Kansas. I want them out.
I think, and this was before the tournament came up with it, but that Michigan State home loss to Indiana. Indiana's bad. And there was this was the opportunity for Izzo to get the Big Ten wins record. And then that sort of performance. I mean, Indiana is bad, bad.
We got to look over that. What about the more recent? We had a huge win against Illinois. We swept Illinois this year, and I think it's a good Illinois team. They got a top 5 pick on
I
their team.
I agree with that, and very impressive that what was it, the last 6.5, 7 minutes of the game, you didn't let them score. A super impressive defensive stretch, as well as there was a goaltending that was reviewed. So there's the picture of at 7 minutes and whatever of the score, and it shows the final, and they have 2 less points. Like that's how good that's a good defense you played. Is that down the stretch they scored negative points somehow?
All right, who you want to move out?
And that's impressive, but lost three of the last 5. Indiana's a bad one, and had some trouble out in California, which West Coast, brand new for the whole Big Ten. Still weird to think about USC and UCLA in the Big Ten, but I think it's just you got opportunities coming up.
We
got
really
Purdue,
do.
got Michigan. Yeah. It's a real tough finish to the season for you. I mean, the easiest one is Iowa on the road. I mean, that's your easiest game. Yeah, so a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities. All right, so you're not interested in moving anyone in for Kansas here. I can't interest you. You already have Gonzaga, and I had them as a maybe. Missouri, you have in Maryland. Derek, no interest in that guy.
Oh, I just don't like Maryland, so I left him out.
Oh, all right. Well, that's good. I should do more context about this.
These are my rankings. I get to do that. The AP poll voters, they're much more official than I am, and they do all sorts of shenanigans like this.
Well, I didn't realize
there was a guy, I can't remember who his name is. He's no longer there, but was there for a while. I believe it was the Zion year, but it could have been one of the years like around there. He did not put Duke in the top 25 until they won a true road game.
Well, it's really great to work with you. This is really a collaborative effort. I'm glad you budged on absolutely nothing. What game should we watch this week?
This week, again, Tuesday. Tuesday is the biggest night of the week. Biggest day, biggest night of the week. Purdue at Michigan State, 7:00 tomorrow. Texas A&M at Mississippi State, also tomorrow, 7:00, both of those. Then Illinois at Wisconsin, 8:30. 9:00, Kansas at BYU. Wednesday, Alabama at Missouri. Friday, Michigan State at Michigan, little rivalry game there. And then Saturday, there's a lot of good like medium games, but like the real top games, not nearly as packed as it has been. But it's Tennessee at Texas A&M at noon, and Missouri at Arkansas at 8:00.
It's a full week. Every one of these weeks is going to really matter a whole lot. There's not a lot of time left for the Selection Sunday's coming. Only a couple weeks left in February.
4 weeks.
A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff's going to happen and change. All the
4 weeks, we'll have a bracket.
Are all going to get reshuffled. They're all going to be in the mix. Like, I don't think. Actually, you want to talk about who's not in the mix right now? Are we free? Could I cross off UConn? Is that official? Now that I'm hearing they might be a bubble team.
No,
they're not going to win this year.
No,
they're not going to win this year. They'll be lucky they even get in. It's over. We did it. They're not going to win. No three-peat.
I thought you meant that they were going to. You think they're a bubble team?
The fact that I'm seeing suspicious articles trying to rumor that, but I don't think they're a bubble team. I don't think the team's very good, though. I think the team's over. I think
maybe they've had some struggle. I mean, they're not nearly as good as they were the past couple of years, but I don't know. It seems like a zombie situation of until they're fully gone. Because it's not even like they won and it was close and some things could happen. There were 2 dominant runs with no close games. So until they are like for sure they lost, and I might even need like 24 hours to like do some sort of investigation to like make sure like they're really done. They don't get to play again. Yeah, I'm on edge.
They do not have an easy schedule to get out of this either. They're going to face the Johnnies again. That'll be tough. They're going to face the team they just recently lost to, Seton Hall, again on the last game. They're going to face Marquette again.
That's a really bad loss. Seton Hall is in the 200s at Ken Palm.
I don't think they have an easy schedule. There's a chance they could lose 2 more games, is what I'm saying. And then this is not going in a good direction. It's over. We could rejoice. Where's the applause?
It would be very nice. It'd be very nice. I don't want to take a victory lap too early here and regret it.
No, I'm willing to risk it. I don't live in Connecticut. I live very close to it.
Do you not remember the previous runs? Do you not remember Kemba Walker? They were not good that year. They were worse than they were this year.
Why are we giving them this much shot? We're going to go back to Kemba Walker. We can't even just talk about the last two. I just someone to three-peat. We're going way back. I don't want to remember that.
I have a healthy level of concern here.
All right, they were a bubble team that year. They only got in because they won the damn conference tournament at the end.
That's what I'm saying. They were even worse that year, and then they won the championship.
Wow, you're really putting that out there. All right, well, maybe we can win some money then. That's
why we got to focus.
All right,
well, don't let them off the hook.
That's all we got. Anything else you want to do with college basketball? I feel like we just spent a half hour on this.
Nope, that's good.
It's time to wrap up the NBA. There's a lot going on. All-Star Weekend. This is what everybody looks forward to. We get to see all these players behind the scenes interact with each other. It was a bust. I didn't watch any of this. I watched everything on YouTube in 10 minutes the next day, and I'm happy I did. I don't regret my life choices. Did you dabble in this by any chance in anything of All-Star Weekend?
I have been so upset the past few years with it that finally this year I told myself at the end of last year. I think I've told myself at the end of like the weekend the past few years of like, if this bothers you so much, just don't watch it. If it bothers you so much, just don't watch it. But then it comes around, and then I talk myself into it. It's like, oh, they got a new format, and they're doing this, and they're doing that. This year, nope. I stepped away. There was stuff going on Friday night, so I was happy to just walk away from that. That's probably when you get like the actual most basketball. Similar to you, the stuff on Saturday night, didn't need to watch that live. There's so much filler in that. Yeah, the next day on YouTube. 40 minutes. 40 minutes, you can watch all of it. I get you are more a fan of the 3-point contest than anything else. But I don't want to make this into just like a gripe wine session here, but it's just Reggie Miller, just all he can talk about is the money rack and where it is. And I guess it's like it's a 3-point contest. So I don't know what else you're supposed to talk about, but it's just, and I don't know, maybe because it was condensed, it felt like even more so. Just like, yeah, I understand how this works. And you got the starry shot still in there. Congrats to Hero on winning that. You kind of teased it a little bit before. It's just pretty funny that Chris Paul is the one that tries to just blatantly exploit the rules on the where you have to make a shot. But for some reason, the rules are on your third shot, you just move on. I think the idea is they don't want anybody to get embarrassed. So technically, they didn't break any of the rules. I think they broke the spirit of the rules. So I understand why they were kicked out. I guess they tried to ask a bunch of questions ahead of time, and probably the, in quotes, referees probably didn't understand what they were going to attempt. But I think that it should be, if it's skills competition for NBA players with no defense. If you have to make a shot, well, you got to shoot until you make the shot. So easily solved there. Good for Klung, win 3 in a row. Probably isn't great when the G League guy is saying, I think this is enough for me in the dunk contest. Once again, immediately after the dunk contest, we have several superstars that everyone would love to see in the dunk contest flirt with the idea, say, oh yeah, I'll totally do this next year. There is no way that John Morant is doing it next year. There's no way that Giannis is doing it next year. You're not going to trick me again.
Yeah, it's fine. We don't need to watch.
Not getting excited for it.
We didn't even really worry about this. We didn't even need to talk about this. I came up with some things that we could do to change it that might help you watch, but I don't think you're going to like any of it, and I don't think any of the changes they've made you like it anymore this year.
My main problem with it was the YouTube clip. The thumbnail had all the winners in it, and
that's
all right. It's all right. My fault. It's on me if you don't watch something live that it can be spoiled for you. But just seemed like there's probably a bunch of other people that didn't watch it that would have just been nice to be like just a little bit surprised. But I didn't watch it live, so that's on me. Just that's like a teeny tiny little thing.
I mean, that clip's gonna live on for 100 years on YouTube right now. If you wanted to click on it 5 years from now, don't you want to know that's the one it's a McClung year? I want to click on that one. I just think that's
no. Because if you want to know who won, then you can go to Wikipedia.
No, but if you're going to go rewatch it and you want to filter through them, I'm going to click the one with McClung on the front of it. And that's why that thumbnail makes sense 10 years down the road, but not like 10 hours down the road.
Aren't you going to get confused? Because he won 3 of them.
Well, I'm going to get more confused if it's not him and it's that year that he won.
Like I said, it was a tiny little thing. It was more on me than anything else.
Was anything as bad as the actual game?
I don't think so. I did not.
what
I
what
did
does
not
that
watch the
mean though?
game.
No. You don't even think so. You're not sure? Like so
No,
they were
that's no, because that's what I'm saying. Is like I said, last year and the previous years have been so bad. I've told myself I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it to myself. We did it last year, and this year I committed to it. I followed along on Twitter of the people complaining, and it was much more people in the business that have to do this more for their job. The new format seemed like it could have worked. I was getting a lot of talk that it seemed like this was TNT's way of like taking a dump on the teacher's desk before you graduate. Bizarre. There was not really a lot of basketball going on, and I couldn't have been happier to watch actual college basketball with actual guys trying and watching The Simpsons, which I think is funny and just kind of ironic because I think a lot of people think that the Simpsons has fallen off since it used to be good, back in the '90s when the All-Star Game was good back in the '90s. But it seemed like it was pretty much on par with what it's been the past few years. So I think I saved myself some time. I think I saved myself some aggravation by not going through it. What I don't get is now I'm hearing the quotes coming out of it from the players and from former players or just people close to it that are still, I don't know if they're just pretending or not self-aware on trying to figure out why this doesn't work. And we all know why it doesn't work because the players don't try. So the NBA has tried to get more and more goofy and more outrageous with the solutions, where all it is you just have to play some semblance of normal basketball. If there's less defense than an old man pickup basketball game, that's not enough. I'm not saying this has to be a playoff game. I know this doesn't have to be a finals game. It just has to be, it has to look like a basketball game, like a normal basketball game when you turn it on. And like I said, you're getting all these quotes out of this, and the players, I don't know what's going on. So I think I'm going to stick with watching college basketball, and it's much more fun.
wow. I love taking shots at the NBA for their vacation weekend. Yeah, you're a college guy. Big surprise here. All right. Well, there's nothing I can do to change it, and there's nothing I can do to make you care about it. The only thing I thought about of this is that we know so much about all of the players already that All-Star Weekend used to be a little bit more of an inside access. And like, we get post-game interviews. Guys are doing podcasts. There's a new documentary coming out every whatever, interviews on all of those sort of shows and their own shows that I don't think we really care about the behind the scenes anymore. I don't think we're shocked to see like players interacting with one another anymore like we used to. And there's not like, oh wow, that guy's in the picture. He's never in any of the pictures. It's like, no, there's always pictures of these guys hanging out all the time. So there isn't anything I haven't seen before that the All-Star Weekend is presenting to me. I think you should do more Mac McClung stuff, and that this just needs to become more of a hired for hand show that just get guys that are really good and entertaining and let them put on a show because these guys
You
aren't going to
want
do
more
it.
Kevin Hart?
You
think that was the issue, that there was not enough of non-basketball goofy stuff?
I said McClung. I didn't say Kevin Hart.
But you said you're talking about hired hand entertainment. And
No,
when I hear
hired
hand entertainment,
dunkers. Go get every good dunker on YouTube. Have them put on the show. Let them risk the injuries. No one else is willing to do it. You're telling me you wouldn't be at least entertained by that? Because these guys are never going to entertain you. And if your solution is that these guys have to find a way to entertain you, it's never going to happen. It's just those guys
it's
in
so
this weekend.
Easy.
I know.
All they have to do is their job.
It's not easy.
The
It's
thing that they're the
easy.
best in the world at is just play normal basketball.
Well, you sound like a high school coach right now. Like, yeah, it's really easy, guys. Just go play basketball. It's really easy. They gotta want to.
Yeah.
They're not gonna want to. There's nothing you can do to make them. There's nothing that you're ever gonna be satisfied with.
And that's not true. That's not true at all. Like I said, I'm not expecting a playoff game. I'm not saying you can't play lackluster defense. And you see 360 dunk. You see some guys get out in the break. You see like some really deep threes. But just if there's absolutely no defense at all, it's not even close to a normal basketball game. It's not an enjoyable product to watch. And this is going head to head at the exact same time. The NHL wasn't loving how their All-Star game was going. So they decided, we're going to do a 4 nations tournament. So they got 4 different countries. They have Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the USA. All the NHL players, 4 different teams. They got a round robin, and there's going to be a championship. Not only is it an actual hockey games being played, the first game is in Canada. They play the national anthem. The Canadian fans boo the national anthem. Okay. Fine. Boo America. See what happens. In the first 9 seconds, there are 3 fights, and then we just destroy Canada in hockey. Destroy them. We have one side willing to just literally throw down the gloves and fight. And then in the NBA, we can't even get like a normal basketball game. We have to do a goofy. They tried to put the rising stars in there thinking, oh, well, if we get some young guys in, they'll be embarrassed to lose in something. I don't know. I don't know. If you can't force people to care, but I just would wish that the NBA players and the quotes coming out of it would just at least be honest about it. And I think it's getting closer and closer of, I think I joked last year of like, let them play pickup football. Let them do something else. Let them have a fashion show and this could be over. But, you got somebody like Jalen Brunson gets selected as a starter for the All-Star team, plays 8 minutes of basketball last night. Kevin Hart, way more time. I guess you could say, oh, well, if you had won, you would have got more time. Have you seen the breakdown on Twitter of this?
No, I didn't even watch the game. Why would I be on Twitter looking up this game? There's no reason to do any research of this game. It doesn't count. It's not for anything. It's not for anyone. They're on a break. They thought they would entertain you while they were on break, and you're mad about the entertainment. They don't have to do this. They don't need to do this. They can stop doing this, and we can stop watching.
They should.
And we can stop talking about it.
Go on vacation for a week and a half, and then these games this weekend can be awesome because they're all rested. Yeah, somebody did a breakdown on NBA Reddit. There was 42 minutes of actual basketball action over a 3-hour time window. Starting right off with, hey, this thing's going to start at 8. Yeah, okay. NBA games, notoriously don't start on time. I don't think it started until at least 8:30, 8:40. I mean, that if you thought it was going to start anywhere close to 8,
the start time was 8:20, 9:20, and 10:20, I think, or something like that. I think they were all 20s.
I don't think that's when it started.
I'm just saying that's what it was listed. It wasn't listed as 8. I know it wasn't 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't know. They're trying to like slam in all these things. There was awards for TNT personalities. They had weird. The Kevin Hart part. They had a concert in like the middle of one of the games, and I don't know that it seemed like the whole thing or maybe not the whole thing, but one of the things was the players saying, "Hey, this isn't like a normal game. We don't get like the normal warm up. Our schedules are all out." And so then you went this way, and I just don't think you should do it. I don't know who it's for. It didn't seem like anybody enjoyed like any part of it, and I got to imagine I'm not the only one that is just gonna go. All right, this is I don't know. This is for kids, and I hope the kids enjoyed it.
Jesus, for my sake, I hope you would just stop watching it. I didn't. I told you we didn't.
I didn't watch it.
Then how did we just spend 20 minutes talking about something none of us watched or cared about, and that we're mad about? This is just ridiculous.
I'm talking about other people that were mad about it.
Well, they're not on the podcast. You just talked about how this is your podcast. You can talk about what you want. Why are we talking about what other people want?
Well, I would like it. It'd be cool that if there was basketball to watch.
Yeah, well, maybe we just need to make the bad teams play this weekend, and that all the good teams get the weekend off.
I'd be down for that.
And we could have a toilet bowl for those.
I don't know how you do that, but there could be something.
Or maybe we just need to have.
Did you think that Steph Curry deserved to be MVP?
Yeah, I mean, I had it Tatum till Curry ends the game on a 9-0 run. They were probably locked even. It's just it was also Curry's house.
It was in the Bay.
Yeah,
so, like it would have had to be a bunch more.
It was Tatum's to lose though, and then it's like, what are you supposed to do though when Curry it's fun to pass to him. It's fun to watch him shoot. Like, what was Tatum supposed to steal the ball from his teammate? I mean, Curry hit the one from half court. He did everything he needed to do to win it. He needed that though. Yeah. That's how close it was though. That Curry needed 3 threes at the end to steal it from Tatum. Like I really believe that part. So like he had to put on a show at the end, and he did. So like I'm not gonna be mad about it. But that's fine. I didn't really have a big issue with it.
It's cool, with the appropriate coaching that Tatum gets to play. I like that part. When the best players are out there, Tatum got to play.
Jesus, are we just recapping all your misery of all these old histories here? Is there anything new we talked about today?
Old history. This is like in the past 6 months.
Yeah, well, why are we still talking about it? We're on to the season.
It only gets more and more ridiculous as it goes along.
All-Star break for the Celtics right now. We're going to be playing in the playoffs soon, and we're mentioning summer topics. What are you talking about? Move on.
You said there's a vacation. There was no basketball to talk about, so I had to go into going to the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, I love that your bag is just a whole bunch of things that frustrate you. It's awesome. Maybe you're gonna be in a good mood about the next topic here. Can we talk about our NFL gambling season results?
Sure.
How,
I crunched the numbers.
how do we do? And I wish I had some sound effects. I should have done that. We could have done some real calculations right now. Stats to impress people. What do we got?
What would be the sound for crunching the numbers?
I don't know. Beep bop boop, something like that. Mike Kendrick
That's
might sue us.
basically, you're right. That's basically what I did. So, good news. We were both positive for the year. If you had tailed either of us, you would have won money. I thought it was interesting. I went pretty much, I'm not gonna call it the safe route. I wasn't going for major favorites, but I was more in the -110, -105 kind of range, where you definitely took more swings.
I'd call yours
You're
responsible, and I have no problem giving you that credit. So
and your you had the big win with a Terry McLaurin TD, which was 10-1. But the final results were, I was up 4.71 units and you were up 1.82 units. So if you had trailed both of us, you would have been up, 5 plus or 6 plus units. So that'd been pretty good.
that's not bad over. It's a long
Oh,
schedule.
that was
It's 18
it
weeks.
was basically about a week. I think we missed a week in there. The total was 22 weeks because we did the playoffs as well.
Oh, that's true. What I will say is the hardest part about all this is that we do the show on Monday, and there's really not a whole lot of. We could really only bet on the Thursday game. So, like, if anything, I would say this is mostly revolving around Thursday games.
You think so?
I think so.
I'd have to crunch the numbers a little more. You're gonna have to find another sound effect, but with the NFL, you can bet ahead of time, but you don't have necessarily all the information with the day before. If anybody was iffy, or if a quarterback was banged up, you definitely were at a disadvantage, I would say.
Well, nonetheless, I'd call that a success. Should we just call it now? Should we retire, or are we hot? Are we? Is the heat check season now?
I think we're gonna have to give it another try next year. Find out, was it a 1-year fluke, or if we're actually good at this.
I'm really not good at the football bets. I'm amazed that you said I was positive. I made it off of pretty much one pick there. That's kind of how gambling works. But I like to think I'm a little bit better like you, kind of picking apart the NBA games, doing little advantages here and there. Mostly Pritchard threes, but that's worked out pretty good.
Right?
I wish we could.
Can't wait till he's shooting again.
I wish we could do more of that, but again, this is on a Monday, and the NBA is definitely a lot more of a nightly thing. And by the time you listen to this, that game's already a wrap. So I don't really know how to fix that. But at least for football, it worked out somewhat good. Anything else you want to tell the people out there?
The NBA is back with real games this week. Thursday we have Knicks at Cavs. Saturday, Lakers Luka at Nuggets. Top international guys there. And then Sunday afternoon, Knicks at Celtics. Celtics are 2-0 against the Knicks. They play 2 more times, and Knicks aren't too far behind the Celtics. So one more win from the C's, and we'd own that tiebreaker.
Yeah, let's see the Celtics continue. Hopefully, they turn it on after all this. After a real solid.
Great, they finished right before the All-Star break, real strong. I was really a fan of that. I know in the past, right before the All-Star break, we've had a habit of, we've got some All-Stars, and there's that last game where it's the senioritis and you just try to get out of there. But I like the way you finished strong.
They're going to have to play better, because I'll be honest, I really didn't have any fear of Cleveland going into it. I thought they were a really good team. I'm kind of feeling a little bit more fearful of them, I'll be honest. I'm starting to respect that team a lot more than I did a couple weeks ago, and that's something we're going to have to show up and show. Like, they're showing up.
5.5 games is definitely a hole, but we did go 2-1 against them.
Yeah. The home court might matter, though, and it might really help them. They might really need that, and that's motivation for them. But that should give us something to chase here a little bit, too. We've been repeating the season's so long. It's like, well, what's your real motivation? It's like, now is the time. The real motivation kicks in now. If you guys want to repeat, you want to go 2 in a row, it starts now.
Yep.
Make sure you subscribe. Little column A, little column B. You can follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
We'll be back next week.
Little column A, little column B.